So we'll get started this morning with prayer, and then we'll go into services. Last week, I announced that I was going to do a question and answer this morning. I hope some of y'all got some questions. Otherwise, I got to invent my own questions and answer them. Which I can do that. I got a few of those. All right, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, I pray that you'll take and be with the service this morning. I pray that you'll bless it. I pray that you'll take and give me wisdom as the questions are given. I pray that I can give an answer that is according to your word. I pray that through this Bible study we'll see the importance of studying your word, and I pray that you'll give us wisdom and teach us some things this morning. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So does anybody have a question? Does anybody out there have a question they were studying? Brother?
Ezekiel Chapter 1, verses 18 through 20.
Ezekiel
Chapter 1, start with verse 18.
Ezekiel 1:18 through 20. Okay.
Okay. So, shall I read it?
Yes.
Okay. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whithersoever the Spirit was to go, they went. Thither was their spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over against them. For the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels.
Okay.
Okay, so they have a spiritual connection to this mechanical thing.
Correct.
But there is no capital S. So, is it actually...
It's because it's not the Holy Spirit, it's the spirit of the cherubims.
Okay.
That's connected to.
That's not listed. So is a cherub a beast? Can we have the spirit of the animal and the spirit of man, spirit, the Holy Spirit and the unholy spirit? Where does that one?
Well, the cherubims are they're not a physical being as far as we are. They're more of what's called an angelic being. Okay? So it's going to be what we would consider the spiritual realm because they are in a set of laws that we're not in. Now, the fact of the matter, we're all created. The cherubims, the seraphims, the angels, the devil, the demons, everything in that realm is created. So it's created according to the laws that God creates it. And the cherubims, obvious, are not under the same laws we are. They're under laws more like an angel.
So are they like considered principalities and powers? Or are they part of that world?
I would call them the heavenly host.
Heavenly host, okay.
The heavenly host. Which principalities and powers more tend to deal with... I would say more of the host that has power that's given by the devil. Is kind of like the Prince of Persia that's mentioned in Daniel that withstood Michael the Archangel. Okay? That he had a power that was connected to a rule over this earth. But he was a spiritual being. Okay, so that's what I would consider the principality and powers. It may extend farther than that. Maybe it will go onto the Lord's side also, because the cherubims are on the Lord's side. Now, what you're reading there is a connection with the throne of God also.
So the cherubim carry the throne?
And you have, it's almost like the cherubims are connects to the throne on four sides, and then wheels connect that cherubim to the throne where that throne can move and be transported. And the cherubims are connected with the wheels, and they allow it to move and fly. Now that's a weird study, but when you study that thing, the wing.
Well, it looks like the four of those have the same spirit, that they don't have to talk. I mean, none of them are pulling against each other.
Well, I don't fully understand it, but what it says, it says the wheels have the eyes round about. The life of that cherub is connected with that wheel somehow. Somehow its life, its spirit is connected with that will. And it goes beyond what we can understand. Well, let me show you. Hang on. Go to Psalms 18:10. Psalms 18:10. Let's pick up verse 7. Psalms 18:7. Then the earth shook and trembled, the foundations also of the hills moved, and were shaken because he was wroth. There went up a smoke out of his nostrils, and fire out of his mouth devoured. Coals were kindled by it. He bowed the heavens also and came down, and darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon what? A cherub. And did fly. Yea, he did fly upon the wings of the wind. And what it looks like is when God goes somewhere, when He moves with them cherubs. It's like them cherubs
like
are part of His chariot that He flies in. And there's some other passages that show it. This is just one I remembered the way it was worded. Which also, if you study the Ark of the Covenant, or the mercy seat, where He sat in the temple, there is some passages in the Old Testament. If you read the way it's worded, there's times where it seems like that Ark of the Covenant goes out before Him, and it's flying on its own. The Levites aren't carrying. A Levite, the four Levites that carried the Ark of the Covenant, were a picture of the cherubs. But that Ark of the Covenant had the ability to fly on its own too. And which gets strange. You have to kind of really pay attention to some of them battles that happened during the time of Numbers and watch that Ark when it goes out before them. It's not always carried. Sometimes it goes on. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Now, I can't remember where that exact passage is. But see, that ark was the earthly mercy seat of the Lord, which is a picture of His throne in heaven. But see, that ark could move and be carried. The throne in heaven moves. And so it took me years before I picked up on that one. But that throne can move, and it's carried by the cherubs. And that's the vision Ezekiel's seeing. Now, exactly why, don't know. And it makes me wonder sometimes, I don't know this for sure, but this is just speculation, if that actual throne that Jesus Christ sits on won't come down to earth in the millennium and be established in Jerusalem. But
if the cherubs actually have their own spirit acted independently of God, but just under his direction, is what this appeared to be. So it moved the throne where he wanted it to go. But it said their spirit was in the wheels. And that was the spirit of the creatures in the wheels.
No.
And it's the only place in the Bible that it's like that I could find.
No, I think this is the only place where the wheels are mentioned. But you have them flying on it, but it's connected with his throne. Let me see in this passage here if I can spot it. Here's another passage on the throne. Let me see. Probably in not sure if I'm going to be able to find it.
I think it's in Ezekiel 10.
Yeah, I want the one where his throne moves, though. I did a study on this a number of years back. But I don't know. Here's one. Turn to Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. Daniel 7:9. Now this one, he connects the wheels with the throne. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the ancients of days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his what? Wheels as burning fiery. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands of thousands ministered unto him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. So the setting is the great white throne, but notice how the wheels are connected with the throne there. And there, let's see if I can find another one. Let me. Ezekiel 10:6. And it came to pass that when he had commanded the man clothed with linen, saying, Take fire from between the wheels, from between the cherubims. Then, see, there he connects the wheels with the cherubims. Verse 7. And one cherub stretched forth his hand from between the cherubims to fire that was between the cherubims, and took thereof and put it in the hands of him that clothed the linen which took it. So they're connected together. And then in verse 10, Ezekiel 10:10, as for their appearance, they four had one likeness, as if a will had been in the midst of a will. Yeah, I think this is... Verse 16, and when the cherubims went, the wills went by them. When the cherubims lifted up their wings to mount up from the earth, the same wills also turned not from beside them. Okay. So them wills are connected by that to that throne, and connected to a cherub. It's like that in-between connecting piece. And to fully understand it, I don't. But the best way I can describe it is the throne of God in the third heaven is like a chariot, and those each will is connected with one of the cherubs in some sort.
Okay. Second half.
All right.
Okay. So Lucifer was the fifth cherub. It was the light bearer.
Yes.
And so I don't understand exactly what his purpose was up there, but you know, if you listen to the modern Jews that don't believe the Bible, and that they all describe him as an angel, a fallen angel, but he never was an angel. He's not now, and he never will be. Right? He can appear as one.
He appears as an angel of light. And an angel is basically just an appearance of the spiritual being.
So he would have traveled with the throne then.
Yes, he would have.
Before he fell, as part of that spiritual
Correct.
power.
At one point, yes. And he had a higher privilege than the other four cherubs because he was called the anointed cherub that covereth. In other words, it would have been like you got the four wheels here, but he was on top.
Where he liked to be.
Huh?
Yeah. No doubt he liked to be there.
Covered. He was on top. He was the anointed cherub. And exactly what his job was during that time, it's not clear. It's not real clear. Or at least if it is, I don't know what it was. But it was an exalted position. And we see 5 cherubs. We don't know that there was any more. Every time it shows up, there's just 4.
Well, what about the 2 that are guarding the gate to Eden? Are they still there?
I wouldn't say they're still there. If they are, you can't see them. But that would say that the garden's still there too. Eden's there, but I don't see the garden being there. It's possible it was there until the time of Noah's flood.
So those 2 cherubs would be 2 of those, most likely?
Yeah. Or it could be a different cherub. What I'm saying is it doesn't say that there's any more than 4. I'm not saying that there isn't. I didn't really think about the one in the garden.
It's just a guard.
Because you're right, that is another mention of a cherub. And we don't really know how many there are. Brother Bemis thinks that the seraphims are the cherubims. I don't know that I agree with him on that one. I can see where he's coming up with that, but I ain't so sure. Because you got a number of spiritual beings, the heavenly host that was created, that is more than what we see on this earth. The unicorn, I believe to be a spiritual being. I don't think that is a physical being. Because you get the noise from the horn of the unicorn. A lot of people try to make that an extinct being, but I'll give you a verse. I just read this one in Psalms.
Well, they always make it a horse.
The way mythology presents it is a flying horse with horns, which might be accurate. But I look at the unicorns mentioned a number of times. At one time, it was obvious something that they were familiar with on the earth. But look at Psalms 92:10. Actually, it was that's a different one. Actually, the unicorn is mentioned in the Bible in 6 verses. Let's see. Psalms 92:10, I think, is the one I want. It says, For lo thine enemies shall perish, all the workers of iniquity shall be scattered. By my horn shalt thou exalt like the horn of a unicorn. I shall be anointed with fresh oil. There's one time it's mentioned, I thought it was connected with music on one of the verses. Let's see. He maketh them also to skip like a calf of Lebanon, and Syrian like a young unicorn. Well, I don't know if that... Maybe I'm wrong on that, about being connected with music. I ain't seeing the verse. I thought I saw one in Psalms, though. Let me try. This tablet doesn't always give me... Okay, hang on. Here's one with unicorns. There it is. This is the one I'm looking for. Psalms 22:21. It says, Save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from what? The horns of the unicorn. Now, he's talking to the Lord, and he's saying that the Lord hears him from the horns of the unicorn. It's a messianic prophecy. You're dealing with the death of Christ here on the cross. Look at verse 18. They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture. But be not thou far from me, O Lord, O my strength, haste thee to help me. Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog. Save me from the lion's mouth. Now, who would the lion be there? That would be Satan. Okay? For thou hast heard me from the horns of the unicorns. So what is that? What is that?
It's like a herald.
Huh? Yeah, okay. You didn't have, they try to say, well, the unicorn is the rhino because of his strength and stuff. You didn't have no rhino on Golgotha. I'm sorry. You didn't have anything that pictured a rhino on Golgotha.
This is why you say it's spiritual.
I say this thing's a spiritual being that's connected in the spiritual realm somehow. Because not only did Christ have a victory over the physical realm, he had a victory over the spiritual realm at the cross. Yes?
Mine has a side note saying wild oxen.
Wild oxen? Problem with that, they have 2 horns. Unicorn means one. So it may say that, but I call baloney. I mean, that's...
Even a rhino has 2 horns.
Some of them, not all of them. There is a type that has 1. There's a type, that's why they come up with it. Most of them have the one and large one and the one small one. But if I'm not mistaken, there's one type that has 1 horn. But that's to me that's a not a mythological being, but a spiritual being. Just like the satyr. Satyr's mentioned in the Bible too, but that's with the demonic side. That thing has a demonic content. But that satyr is a real thing. Just because it's a spiritual being doesn't mean it's not a real being. They do exist, but they don't exist in our knowledge on this earth because we can't see them, handle them, put our hands on them. Okay? That's why, I mean, I'll give you a creepy one. I mean, there's so many eyewitnesses out there that swear there's a thing called Bigfoot. I'm a little bit skeptical of that thing, that it really exists. Anywhere that you have bears, I can see the legend of Bigfoot. I saw a grizzly bear standing on its hind feet across the field once, and you'd have swore it was a picture of Bigfoot. It was a grizzly. So I'm a little skeptical if it really exists, but the way they describe that thing and seeing it all over the world and stuff and the legends and stuff behind it, I would almost say that thing's a spiritual creature. Nothing physical about it. If it is real, it's a demonic creature. I'd say it's demonic. If it's chunking rocks at people, it's demonic. I mean, that would be my thought, okay, on it. Now, when you start getting all these eyewitnesses and stuff, I mean, it's hard to totally say that there's nothing to this. Just like the UFO thing. You can't sit there and say there's nothing to it. They got too much evidence, too many witnesses.
There's got to be something, I think, to what you're saying, because you can take a clear picture of everything except Sasquatch and UFOs. They're always blurred.
No, I would say they're demonic.
Yeah, like not completely.
There's something demonic or spiritual about that. It's in a realm that we don't understand. Now, the problem with, I think, drugs sometimes enters a man into to see some of the spiritual realm that is hidden from us from seeing. I've talked to people that are on these hallucinogens, and some of the stuff they describe snakes circled around buildings. I mean, there's a problem with them seeing snakes all the time. They're really connected with snakes, okay? Well, there's a context. The snakes are connected with a spiritual realm, a demonic realm. So are their eyes opening where they're seeing a form of demons or devils? That's all around us. We just don't see it. Say, is there devils? They're probably sitting. All right, I got to pick a pew row where nobody's sitting. I mean, I don't want to sit there and say, oh, they're sitting on. I'll be safe and say the front row. No, that's my wife. I mean, they're on this side of the front row, you know. Who knows where they're sitting?
That's why they have the smoke surfaces to get them out of here.
Yeah, exactly. But you get the ideal. I mean, just because we don't see them doesn't... I believe in guardian angels. I think you got angels around you all the time. I believe that. And sometimes that vision's opened up. I mean, well, you got proof in the Scriptures where Elijah said, open up his eyes so he can see. There's more with us than more with them. Is that Elijah or Elisha? I think that was Elijah. And you had all the host around. There's a missionary story about Jim Elliot when he was killed down in South America. One of them guys that killed him got saved when his wife came down. And he described the incident of when her husband died, and he said, we saw men in white in the air standing all around us. when we slew those men.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
How many of you ever read that account? And that's when Jim Elliot and them 5 missionaries were killed down in South America. Now, that doesn't mean that the angels always interfere with what's going on, but their presence is there. And when you study the angels, I mean, there's a lot more angels involved with men than we realize. We just can't see them. They're in a spiritual realm. They have what they call, I don't know, this is sidetracked from the question and answer. You have what you call 6th sense. That 6th sense is to be able to pick up something that's there by your spirit connecting with their spirit. 6th sense. Something evil there. You say, do you believe in that? I absolutely believe in that, and any bow hunter should. You can be up there 30 foot high. If you concentrate on that deer too much, it doesn't matter what direction the wind's blowing. It doesn't matter how quiet you are. That deer will, and it doesn't matter how still, that deer will sit there. Look at, if you watch it too close. So you watch to the side. Every bow hunter knows you don't look at an animal too long. If you look at him too long, he'll pick his head up and he'll look right at you. I've seen him do it time and time again. Say, how does that critter know that? 6th sense. It detects you're looking. How many of you have ever been walking down a dark alley and like, something looking at you? You pick it up.
You don't even have to be a dark alley.
No, right. But you pick it up. I mean, you ever been going through the woods and you're like, I need to get out of here?
Yep. Absolutely.
Hunters pick up on that. And maybe you have to get out alone where you can pick up on it. But I fully believe in that 6th sense. Okay? What does the 6th sense say? It says just because you can't feel it, see it, touch it, smell it, taste it, or hear it, does not mean that it's not present. It's a sense we don't understand. You get in the spiritual realm, who knows how many senses? You probably have 7 senses. Yeah.
The Bible does say to avoid that, not to cultivate it, but to avoid that altogether.
You don't want to become the Buddhist. The Buddhist's whole religion is about this 6th sense. Out of the body experiences. Trying to step into the spiritual realm. You're physical. You don't need to step into the spiritual realm. The only spiritual realm you need to step in is stepping up to the throne room of grace. The only one you need. Stay out of that stuff. But does that mean that it's not real? Oh no, I bet it's real. It's just as real as it can be. I mean, them demonic creatures would talk to Jesus Christ. They knew who He was. It's real. Anyway, is there any other questions? I think we covered the wills enough. Any other questions? Yes. Huh?
Yeah, Ham, when he got off the ship, sinned, and God couldn't curse him because
He was already blessed.
Yes.
Yes.
So he cursed Canaan.
Right.
My question is there anywhere in the Bible why God chose Canaan over his other 3 brothers? Because he had 4 sons.
Right. So why did He choose Canaan? Don't know that would be. I would say it has to do... this thing ain't... I don't fully know the answer to that, brother, to be honest. But the first thought that comes to my head, though, is because of God's foreknowledge of what Canaan's descendants are going to do. Because it's the...
The foreknowledge that God had of what Canaan was going to do.
what the descendants of Canaan was going to do. Because it's the land of Canaan. I mean, we sing a land of Canaan. Well, that's the curse that came upon all them descendants that was destroyed by the Israelites in the land of Canaan were the descendants of Canaan, the one that was cursed.
They were part of it.
Yeah. You don't have all the ones down in Ham in Africa being cursed. It's and they were also messing with the sons of God later too. And you also have Nimrod coming from Canaan. And how far? But I'd have to. But all that comes after. And you don't see anything actually in Canaan's life happen. He's cursed, but you don't see nothing with his life particular that gives you the answer that had to do with something with him.
The original question is, why pick Canaan over the other three brothers?
All I can say is God's foreknowledge. Foreknowledge on the direction that they're going to go.
Of what they were going to become.
Huh? Yeah. But I can't prove that with... That's a guess, brother. I can't prove that with a verse. I cannot prove that. But that's the only... Because I've had that same question before. And I cannot give you an absolute answer on that question.
I don't want to beat it to death. I want to get to the next one.
Huh?
I said, I don't want to beat it to death. We'll get to the next question.
Yeah.
Ready for another one or not?
Well, we're about ready to wrap it up. Does anybody else have a question? We can do another one real quick.
Maybe
Huh?
something that'll help support what you said was when a king of Israel sent his wife to the prophet because their son was sick, and God went ahead and killed the kid, but said because there's some good in him, and so that he could be avoided being raised in an evil house. And that had to do with foreknowledge.
Yeah, well, when God punished the generations, He punished them to the fourth generation. Sometimes, the descendants. And He foresaw the generations. See, what you're saying is He foresaw it.
Yeah.
So what like with Jeroboam's case, what He's foreseeing one being good of the sons of Jeroboam, but not the others. So the curse goes on the others. He saves the one from the curse by letting them die. And it's still a stretch. It's still a stretch. I mean, it's I'd have to search to find if there's any verses to actually back that theory up. I can't give you an absolute verse on it.
Okay, I got another question. I'm in Zechariah, the last chapter, chapter 14, verse 16.
If you even say the book of Zechariah, I want to say, I don't know. But I mean, that's
Get all the easy.
Zechariah chapter 12, verse 6? 14.
16.
Okay, 14, 16. And shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which come against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the feast of the Tabernacles. So what's the question?
Okay, we know that's a millennium passage.
Yes.
Okay. In the Old Testament, the Jews were required to go to Jerusalem to celebrate three things: the Passover,
Feast of Booths.
and the
Feast of Tabernacles.
Okay, and the Passover was the main feast.
Correct.
Why is it the main feast is the Feast of the Tabernacles and the Millennium?
Good question.
I mean, do you have anything offhand? I don't want to belabor.
Oh, man. Boy, y'all are coming up with tough ones tonight. Today.
Get back later.
Let me think about that for a minute. Why the Feast of Tabernacles instead of the Passover? Passover's already done, but...
Could you ask that again without your hand in front of your mouth? Like,
So the question is why in the millennium is the emphasis on the Feast of the Tabernacles instead of the Passover feast?
It's the only feast.
Huh?
It's the only feast that I can find in the Bible that they celebrate in the millennium. When Christ sets up his reign in Jerusalem, all people have to come there once a year to participate in the Feast of Tabernacles.
might it be that in the millennium, the Lord's on the throne, and so faith has, and the Passover was an act of faith, but it's not required then because he's visible.
I don't know about that.
Yes.
Brother, I got to think on that one. I don't know.
One more question in that passage. At the end of the passage, and it said, and in that day there shall be no more Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts.
Correct.
Okay, back to the Canaanites.
Yeah.
So, is that telling me that they cannot participate in the Feast of the Tabernacles?
That curse is going on. Yes, that's what. It's not telling you they cannot participate. They can't come up into Jerusalem.
Say it again.
They cannot come up into Jerusalem. In other words, their presence.
Wait a minute. Verse 1 says that everyone that is left of all the nations which come against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King. So it's saying everyone.
Yeah, but then it's giving you the exception, an exception down there. That's why it's in the same passage. It's saying not the Canaanite. It says there shall be no. So you got one or two. Either all the Canaanites are wiped out, and there isn't none to go. Huh? Well, I would say so too. I'd say there's plenty of them still there, but they're not allowed to go up. So you're given. This is one of the problems everybody runs into. You see, all is all without exception or all with exception?
All with exception.
All with exception. You're running into an all with exception.
Okay, you're saying then in verse 16, when it says all the nations, in other words, you could say except the Canaanites.
Except the Canaanites, except the Egyptians. You have another place of worship in Egypt. I forget where that one is. You know, there's another temple. Egypt is owned like that. And it seems like they have another place to worship in Egypt if they're not allowed in to Jerusalem. Now, I'd have to give you that reference where it says Egypt is mine. I think that one's in Isaiah. But that Canaanite is not, that one is pretty clear in Ezekiel there. The Canaanite cannot come in. He can't. And that has to do with that curse going all the way down from Noah.
That started with the curse. But he didn't.
Right. And I would connect those two together. I'd connect them together. But it's now exactly why it isn't all pardoned in the millennium, I don't know. Till the new heaven and new earth, sin isn't done away with. So not everything is pardoned. Not everything's made new.
Well, since I'm going to be there, I want to know why.
Huh?
Since I'm going to be there, I want to
Yeah.
know why.
Yeah, you asked some hard questions. I'm going to have to think about that Feast of Booths one, though. That's a good question. I don't know that one. I've never really studied that. I've never really studied that angle of it.
Well, I've studied it through the commentaries of Ruffin, of course, but he doesn't have an answer.
Well, Dr. Rupp ain't got that one.
He just takes it for what it says. No
Right,
Canaanites,
right.
period.
It's like saying there's no more sea.
Yeah.
Is that the sea up there?
My understanding with the Canaanite is he does have a place to worship, but it's down in Egypt. And you can't sit there and say God ain't going to forgive a Canaanite. He will. I mean, technically, probably if you take and study it, the Syrophoenician woman's probably a Canaanite.
A lot of the Canaanites,
Huh?
a lot of the Canaanites is in the Arabic countries too.
Right. Right. But it has to do something with that temple in Jerusalem in the millennium being holy. And there's certain ones that are not allowed into it. All right, we got to close.